lived there in town?
Lived right behind those North End stores.
It is right behind that, where that bank, new bank is now. Lived right behind that.
No, he lived behind over there where Brown and Jones, where Jenny Jones' store was, might be in front of the Methodist Church. You know, Man Nash lived in front of the Methodist Church.
Well, Man Nash lived back up the other way on the other corner up there. Fred, past the store.
But Whit Murphy, I thought.
Whit Murphy lived in that house. Well, the little old store way back years ago, but it's where the bank is now. That's right a couple of houses back there. Ethel Murphy lived there at one time. Well, and who used to live there? I think Leland Adams lived there.
Did either one of you, I think I've asked one or both of you, I was asking, Hook Cooper the other night was telling me, I would ask him, I said, do you remember the Truit family? He says, oh yeah. I said, I went over and looked at Mr. Truit after he fell off the roof. I said, what? He said, yeah. I said, he got shot off of his roof. He was up working on the roof. And some boys were hunting birds down in the creek and they shot him. You remember that trail, or you ever heard
it? I didn't. I thought Mr. Truit died of tuberculosis. I thought I remember him being dead.
Yeah, I think I am. Truit?
Earl Truit's daddy. You remember Earl?
Earl, yeah.
Earl's up in Oxford now.
And got a sister lives up there in my grade. Her name was, what about 10 years old age was?
I don't know, but Miss White's got on the back of a picture my best friend. Wasn't Gladys, was it?
No. Truit. Cecil Truit. Remember Cecil Truit?
Cecil, yeah. Now, Mr. Evans remembers Cecil Truit. They moved out to Pine Valley. Miss Truit bought a place out of Pine Valley after he died here in town. And he went to school with Cecil Truit at Pilgrim Rest School. But in this picture I've got with Perkins Bell and John Mayfield and Mr. McCulley and Mr. Willie Wilson, that bunch up there in the shop, there's a nice-looking, slender young man dressed up with pencils in his shirt pocket like a clerk, you know. His name is Earl Truit.
Now, he was a clerk. I think the Master Mechanics office.
And it would have been 1919.
No, he could have been in the store department office.
Is that the same one that still lives in Oxford?
Yeah.
Good gracious, he is up there.
He's about 85, 86, 87.
Maybe I'll go see him.
Cook said, many times I went in that bank, said, you just took in the money. I had to get out here and rig it up.
Yeah.
Now, when Cousin Will Simmons come here to town, this is where he moved to. He talked about that.
This was a Backston place.
Backston place.
He had that under mortgage, and Backston lost it to him.
Is that right?
He bought the Backston on there, all the land from here to the railroad, down on Tuckaloosa Bottom at one time.
I thought they were wealthy people.
They were, but after Dr. Backston died, he was only child, old man Thad Backston, and he didn't do anything to raise children.
When I was Ed Backston, his son.
Ed Backston was the oldest one.
And the one that married Barron Leland?
Yeah, well, there was Miss Pearl, Miss Fannin married Big Knox, and one married Edgar Robinson, one married Graham.
Oh, was that Hazel's mother?
Yeah.
Hazel Gram. She was a pretty girl. I have seen 7 possums run over today. I went to Poplar this morning, and I've seen 7. There's 5 between you and Poplar.
Well, I've read that you know that the possum and the cockroach are 2 things that are unchanged from prehistoric times.
Well, I knew possums were real old. I didn't know about roaches. They're very successful, though. The animal, though, that comes closer to going as far as man does is the Norway Rat. He has gone everywhere, maybe even to the South Pole. He would hide away in ships and go wherever people went.
You know, if there's anything to this British about man coming up from the lower order of animals, it can't be the apes. They say the apes, but here's a differentiating factor now. The apes put out their crop like horses, mules, and buns.
Yeah.
But the chimpanzees put that in solid matter like humans.
Well,
now to me, that's if there's anything coming up, that's a differentiating characteristic there.
That's right, I didn't know that. Oh, shoot, look, James Brown has really got a bunch of cars and stuff.
He's got trucks there now.
I told him the other day, I said, James, you'd buy a bunch of stuff and put it out here for you and sell something. Well, yeah, but the interest is so high if we put them out there. So we order them for you.
That's all they want to do now is just take the order from one. They get to it.
People won't look at them.
They want to see what they're going to buy.
But you know,
Billy Walker's a good salesman. James don't sell things anymore.
But you know, they got old customers that come there. Billy sold one last week.
Well, I enjoyed the trip.
Yeah.
Dinner, y'all.
We have to thank Charlie for using his car.
Charlie, somebody heard somebody say that Charley Baddley's house burned. So you didn't have a house over there back in the shop anywhere in Barron Leland?
No, they tore down my house over there where I live.
Give me the glass, I believe.
No, they
Sir?
Where's the glass?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Tell Miss Mary thanks.
Yes, sir.
Okay. See you.
Okay.
That's a good trip.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
See if that window's still working. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, it's working.
Just wasn't making contact.
That's what I always thought about so much of this mechanism on some of these cars. It gets out. When it does get out, it's out. But how are you going to roll one down or up when they get out of fixed?
It takes a mechanic 3 or 4 hours at $14 an hour to fix one of those things.
Yeah.
Man, they're expensive. That's what the sign says. When you go in Johnson Chevrolet, it says our labor is $14 an hour. In Memphis, it's $20 an hour. Oh, let's go look at the pretty flowers. Every spring, this thrift right here, so pretty.
Yeah. Well, that's an old home. Big.
Yeah, that was up there when you were a boy, I know.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
This is newer here, isn't it?
I guess it is. I don't know.
That's the old Murphey.
That's the old Murphey home. And he had a cutting right here with the mule lot and cutting yard. Right in here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Car was never stable as here.
With what? Oh, I thought it was over here.
Oh, over there. What am I thinking about?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. This was Hendricks Foundry, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But now right across over there, wasn't there a stock pen or something where you loaded
the stock pens used to be here. Till they changed them, put them up here, the north end. Yeah, that's where the pens were. I never did. You told me about seeing a picture one time where they was loading out a bunch of mules. I sure would like to got to see that picture.
Yeah, I would too.
But I remember that day well. Had 32 carloads of mules, and they took them off there to rest and feed them. And man, it took a half a day to load them out. And everybody come along with helping.
Jimmy Cahill had that picture.
Yeah.
Oh, Miss Madden showed me the picture first. Then Jimmy Cahill had it. And it's right up there in Memphis with one of those girls right now. And I've been threatening to get in touch with them and I haven't done it yet. Oh, this is a good driving car.
It does drive good. It rides good. It's
This is a good car. I'm going to drive this one in mine.
just go right there. Just about where I'm going.
All right.
What time is it? 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
I was going to the store.
I'll take you if you want to go.
No, it's all right. I can go around there. I can walk away.
Oh, okay. I told that boy of mine I'd be back at 5 o'clock to give him some money to go to the ball game.
Yeah.
He gonna be wondering what ball game I was talking about. God, I enjoyed it so much. We'll go again next week.
Okay.
Something she say to back here?
Yeah, she stopped up here at the red light there, and then the mayor cop didn't notice it, just goes on into it.
Okay, take care.
I'm gonna stop by someday and look at those things. You don't see it.
All right. I sure, I thought about it the other day and I saw it. I'll bring it down there next week. It takes you a long time, but it's good.
Yeah?
But then you'll collect all that money.
Well, I want to get to, I just want to see it.
Okay. Probably be some surprises on there too.
There will be. Hey.
Rich? Is Rich there? Okay. Well, I decided you wanted some supper. I'll cook some biscuits and eggs. Oh, I can smell something cooking out in the back there. You still got the little baby? You gonna eat steak too? You should like one of them? All right, we'll see. I just got back in. We've been Charley and Truit out there now, boy. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Lorene gave me instructions.
What's the name of the cemetery?
Hadn't even really got a name, just Boydstone.
This is old man Tobe Boydstond Grandfather.
Oh.
And that is way back.
I know the history of Lorene, and they're coming down here. And we went to Parliament, and Joe and I did, and spent the night and the day. We went to the Polk Cemetery, which is right just a block off the main street. Old Ezra Polk, I'll tell you what I can remember the quote. He didn't like organized religion, so he believed in strict morality. And he, back in the 1820s and 30s, the Methodists were just hollering all the time. He got on down in there, and it's on the slab on his grave. Everything he wrote is on that there. And he said that he believed in the strict separation of church and state. He said, I think Methodist falling will be our downfalling. And then he said, first fruits and tithes are odious things, and so are bishops, priests, and kings.
Who'd you say? Who was he?
He's President Polk's grandfather. He lived at Bolivar.
Polk, yeah. Well, there's some connections with Polks.
Yeah.
To my bunch of Baddleys out there. I'll tell you who, Andrew Bear's boy works here.
Curtis Berry.
He was actually, his mother was a Paige, and he saw something about the Polks back, and he was asking me. I told him I
Wasn't there a Polk Page?
There was a Polk Page, yeah.
I've heard my dad talk about the Polks. I've heard him talking about it, so I don't know what.
My granddaddy was named Polk, because he had no connection to anybody else. How he used to name him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his name is James Not Polk Wade. He just found named James Polk Wade.
Yeah.
James Not Polk Wade. That's like Mr. Val Pearson's Polk. I had a time finding it. I walked every hill in here until I stopped the black fella. He said, well, it's right down yonder. He brought me down.
You know, you look at these things, I don't know what happened to us, but you just let them put off one of those bombs around and the whole country will let it grow up.
And grow up in a hurry. This right here, I bet you was in a cotton field. It probably was farmed for 100 years, right in here.
Remember there was a church in here?
I don't think there was
This
ever.
old man was a Methodist preacher.
Well, there must have been a church here then.
And I told you about him.
Is he Rufus Neely?
You know at Bolivar,
John?
it's on the Hatchie River. And the first rise out of the river was where the first settlement was. They called it Hatchie Town.
Yeah.
And it was so full of malaria and mosquitoes, this man's wife, she had Uncle Ruth and old man John.
Yeah, J.P.
She was dying with fever and she knew it. And she asked him if when she died, would he take those boys and leave them, try to find a healthier place to live so that we'd all get
Well,
like
that's in the write-up that I read about it.
And she died. He buried her there, and then he came off down here to Yellowbush County.
Now, was he B.N.? B.N. Boydstond?
I don't know.
Or Rufus Neely?
He was Uncle Boydstond. Tobe Boydstond's father. John Boydstond was Joe Edwards' grandfather. J.P.
That's him right there.
Born in 1799, died in 1868. He was 69 years. Wife of J.P. Boydstond. Now this is another wife, I think. Wife of J.P. Boydstond. Born in 1806, died in 1867, age 61 years.
Now, there were two J.P. Boydstons. I do believe.
This man was a Methodist preacher. Ruth was a Baptist. His wife came to be a Baptist. He married in that Collins family. And the Collins were all Baptists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now this
This Robert M. Moorhead.
Parson Moorhead?
I don't know.
When was he born?
1825.
Yes, it is. His Mary A. wife, R.M. Moorhead, born September the 4th, 1828. He was born 25, 3 years older. He died the 25th of April, 1890. What's your name, Miss Parson Moorhead?
Well, there's nothing over here that I can see.
You know, those two Thomas said he was on the line. He looked at Mr. Moorhead and said, Mr. Moorhead, will you agree for me to marry Lorene? He said, well, Lorene, will you make her a living? He said, well, I'll try. That's all he said.
Well, here's a second Lieutenant Moorhead, the Confederate States of America. Second Lieutenant, let's see. R.M. Moorhead.
What R.M. a 10?
R.M. Moorhead.
I thought that the old Pat Moorhead got his name, thought his name was Chris. That was Moorhead.
He was in the 3rd Mississippi Infantry.
His name was what you say, Fred?
R.M. Moorhead.
But the one you said, the W.P., what is his name?
Walter Pierce.
Pearson? What is it? That's old Moorhead down west. We had a Moorhead downtown. That Moorhead's name is Pearson. It was.
I know where I am now. There's lots of church out here. And it was called the Baptist Church. And the people all moved out of this little country around 1900. And the sister was dead. I'll say their name in a minute, like you know, I'll do a minute. But they took the remnant of that church and went over on the road and made a couple of church out of it. This is Shady Grove Baptist Church.
Shady Grove. Well,
Oh, well, Shady Grove, I know where that is.
Right here, somewhere in this
I don't know how to get to it now.
well, he's right here, right here's the graveyard. Right up on the road, on the Barron Road.
The old Shady Grove Church that I went to, the way over on the close to the Parish Road.
well, that's another one. But it wasn't a Baptist, was it?
Now look at here.
I don't believe so.
Here's the wife of old man Russel Sartain.
Yeah.
And old man W. Nolan said, I knew old man Russel Sartain, said he was a granddaughter of all the Sartins. His name was Russel Sartain. That's where Pee Wee and Russel Sartain got money.
Sure.
But look how clean that thing is.
That's amazing.
Genia, wife of Russel Sartain, born the 9th of October, 1830, and died February 1st, 1868. She was 38 years old.
Yeah. Been there for 40 years, and look how clean it is.
Yeah.
I had been here when I thought the timber had, I knew they'd taken this thing, but I thought it was up to the timber, but the other thing had survived pretty well.
Now there's Amanda, wife of C.J. Sartain.
On 1850, died in 1865,
1885. 35 years old. No, born in 56, died in 85. 29 years old. I know they'd come down here.
1841, died in 1870.
William Marsh.
I think old man West Simmons' second wife, who was Miss Askew. I think she was a Marsh.
Martian.
You know, they didn't have a big cemetery, did they, except there's graves here that don't show. Now, here's a grave right here, if you want to know who it is.
See, here's one right here. A.E. Oh, we've already looked at that. That's, yeah. That's Cedar.
That's where they found the tree there, because here's a grave, and somebody looked like cut off the fence.
Yeah, that's Cedar.
There's another one like that. This is the grave
Yeah.
Now that's another one of those stones that's not too badly discolored. You can read it just as, and that's a,
Stones on each Kendrick Church. They just come here and take over.
Well, now, that's some of Pee Wee Sartain's kinfolks, isn't it, Russell?
4 barrels, yeah. 4 barrels.
4 barrels.
Yeah, it's got a forester sergeant. You know, that goes down.
What's the old man Moorhead named R. What? Yeah.
R.M.
R.M. That's why I thought it was Mr. I remember seeing pictures of old man Moorhead up that tower.
Up where?
Up at old man O.T. Powers' house years ago. A man, their wife was C.J. Sargent. Well, in 85, they were still holding forth out here.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty hard to do now.
That's near 100 years ago. See, that's a sunk-in place. There's a grave there.
I came out here.
There's a grave there. There's one there. There's one. All along here.
You see them Lorene.
Baddley, Charley Baddley may be right here, Charley. Charley Baddley may be here.
Could be.
So,
It's not very far, as I said.
I see that in the old place.
You know, that might have been back even.
there you go. There's the road right there.
I have no knowledge of when Shady Grove Church was organized.
But let's see. I bet it stood right in here, or either right over there.
Mr. Trustee's grandfather, old man Hendricks, was a religious man, and his brother was a preacher. And the brother, when they came out of the mountains, Tennessee, set aside the skinny. He was in there. But Mr. Trustee said when his granddaddy would get to the corn in church to pray, he'd get up and go shopping. And he and another man were riding through a field country back in here, had a colored church, and then they had a meeting. And Mr. Trustee said, let's go in and listen to the biggest preacher while. And they did, and they went in, and the preacher called on Mr. Trustee to pray. And Mr. Trustee said, this other man said, and Mr. Jimmy Trustee, he got shot, and he got through praying and shot, and said, well, I sold in that church with him, that old white man. They done left it.
That's hard. Yeah, this is a nice one. Yeah, there's an open area that I didn't know about. There's been a field over in there. I guarantee you there's been a field everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Just 5, 1, 2, 3,
6, 7. There's one down. I see 6.
Look at farmland.
Yeah.
Just like Bruce, he was telling me, I haven't been over that. He said across the river down at Springdale was all growed up.
Oh, yeah.
That's right along across the river. Well, I remember when that was farmed. That was a good farming land.
It was still being farmed in the 40s. It's just recently grown up. The gums are about this big. The color, they're growing just like gray.
Oh, yeah.
One time, I wanted to go fishing. He and I started walking up the railroad, carried our stuff to spend the night. Went to Springdale and turned out to crossing back in the woods over there, over there. Carried my little old fox-terrier dog named Fritz with us. And when the sun went down, them little swamp owls began to squall and howl, wow! Like they scared that dog to death, I'm telling you.
Did y'all cross a bridge across the river right there? There used to be a bridge across there.
We didn't cross the river. We went down in the edge of the bottom. We went a few hundred feet in the bottom.
Brigham Young built that bridge.
He did.
When he, I don't, maybe there's another one there, but he built that good one when he owned that place.
Yeah. Oh, there was a bridge across there in Civil War time.
Yeah, but he built this bridge.
Yeah. And that's where Mr. Rogers was sitting, close to that old bridge place when he dropped his diamond tie pin.
Yeah. I guess that was Mr. Carey's ring.
I guess it was. And
Who did that?
Tom Rogers, he was fishing and he dropped his tie pin in the river. And Buddy Carter and a bunch of boys,
about as big as the end of my little finger.
they never did find it.
Well, Dr. Shofner had an office up over in the Kansas Bank. You know, they stepped like John Horan.
Mm-hmm.
And he had an electric producing machine, turn a big crank, and sparks would fly this glass tubes, and had a table there for a person lying. Miss Royal had a bad case of catarrh. Finally became cancerous and took the nose off. But she'd go up at him lying at the table, and he'd pull this thing down over the nose, and him the lines right from him. He'd turn that crank, and that thing would fly and spit fire, ran in and got through that. And she made several trips. Russell and I went one time. She said, Doctor, were you in the war? You know, and then he asked if I was in the war. It meant the Civil War.
Yeah.
They said, oh, yeah, I was in the Civil War. He was a Truit, he was a surgeon, a Civil War surgeon. And said, well, now, do you know you ever killed anybody? Well, yes. Said the Yankees burned the bridge out here on Robbins. Said the Yankees were sitting up on that Stanford Stream. Said, God, dude, I flipped up in the cane brake and shot him. Said he hit the water. Said the water splashed 10 feet high. Said, does it bother you to know you killed anybody? Said, if I could kill 100, I'd felt better about it.
Oh, he was a tough old man. Dr. Shofner.
Big shot.
He was funny. He'd go, he was my grandfather's jump attack. It did send for him, you know, he'd go. And like if he's laying here, the grandmother, he'd go on in if it's in wintertime. He wouldn't stop. He'd go up and sit down in front of the fire and talk. He'd talk for, then he'd get up direct and go back to the station. But he would. He'd go in there and sit down and start talking.
Well, you know why? He knew in his own mind there wasn't much he could do. Doctors couldn't do much for you then, but just talk.
He always had the, you know, part of his horse and how they had the food and he always had the same horse.
Yeah,
It was rolling.
Well, in that picture that Boyd drew for the watermelon carnival that time, but it was gone back in the 90s, that's supposed to be Dr. Shofner in that buggy, I think.
And that's where he parked.
Yeah. He's a big fat man?
Short and fat.
Yeah?
Had a
Black biscuit.
but he kept it dyed, and he missed dyeing would get white around his mouth and around the edge. His hair was thin, bald on top, and the rest was just the
He
same.
lived up on the hill, back up there, here.
Everybody saw street and tried to murder.
Oh, yeah, where there was a Baptist church there.
Well, it was got shot and built
Yeah.
there. But I've been under that house, and that main by that house was built like they used to build them. Got about 10 square hewn steel most of it with a stud set in the board and a peg put in there to hold the stud in the sill, and it'll stay there. Now John Chadwick built that dining room kitchen on the back of our students real good.
Yeah, I knew his Chadwick lived up there one time.
Yeah. And that's the Dr. Shofner home. See how these times will reseed themselves?
Yeah.
He had a son who was
Depot agent.
a depot agent, yeah. Will Shofner.
He had another married man.
He had a daughter.
Mel.
We were talking a while back, you know, about up there in the north end of town. I'll tell you where the old Dr. Eskew place was and all.
Mm-hmm.
Well, have you got some kind of record on J.J.? He worked for the railroad for years and years, J.J. Eskew.
No,
He lived at Sarton.
Yeah, he was agent operator over there. Yes.
no, I haven't got a thing on him. But I know.
I felt so sorry for that fella. He and Brooks Boyd, Jim Boyd, were just boyhood friends together. You know, Boyd lived down up east there. And Brooks was a good commercial artist, but he never did accumulate anything. And he died at the Chicago City Hospital. And they shipped his body down here and they had it prepared after he got here. But I went down there to just to sign the book on John Mary Boyd and me. But this man, his wife came in, he looked at Jim Boyd and stood there and cried right there.
Who was it?
J.J. Eskew.
J.J.
Oh. Well, now, you know, there's something you're telling me here. The man who came back here and was the architect, he wasn't the same fellow that drew the picture.
No, that was Brooks. Brooks was an architect in California and was one of the consulting architects on putting up that Ford building in Los Angeles.
When the J.G. who drew the pictures was Jim Boyd.
Jim Boyd.
I told somebody that the other day. They said, no, I said, that man was Brooks Boyd.
Brooks was architect, Jim was an artist.
Okay.
Look at here. That road had a fork in it, and this timber cutting business went down through there. If we walked that where we came from, it went right on down there. And here, this is the part of that old road we saw over the brow there.
Yeah.
Down through there.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, I was going to ask you, we were talking about that Eskew, if you had anything, because he worked a long time over there for the IC.
I don't remember a thing about.
He was station agent or something over there. I didn't know him personally, no.
He was a little fella, too, kind of like Jim Boyd was.
And his sister, Miss
Nellie?
Miss Nellie Askew went to the asylum when she was real young and stayed there till she died.
50
Lived to be an old lady.
Stayed 55 years.
Yeah.
Good.
She was a big friend of me and Annie Anderson and my mother. You know.
She and Nellie Baker were going to put in a studio together. Miss Nellie Askew was going to teach art and Nellie Baker was going to teach music. And Nellie Baker went up there to spend the night with her one night and they found that Miss Nellie Askew had a butcher knife under her pillow. And Nellie Baker went home.
Yeah. Ooh, I guess so. Well, now, this was Dr. Askew's people, wasn't it?
His brother.
Yeah.
That's Dr. Askew's grandson. No, it's had a brother's grandson.
Yeah.
This old man Moorhead baptized my grandmother. Old man Parson Moorhead.
Called him Parson Moorhead, huh?
What Papa called him, Parson Moorhead.
Parson Moorhead. You know, they used to call all school teachers professor, and preachers, they had a good name for preachers, too. That's a stump right there. I don't want you...
Now, I'll make it. I'm just clumsy as some old person.
I saw down there at the old swimming hole, you know, down there town, the swimming hole still for the generations. It was drained the creek. But one Sunday, old man Moorhead was baptizing down there. Had a line coming through. And the second fellow here, no need to tell about who it is now, but he was a young man. He was old and dead now, but he was a young man. He climbed out on a willow that hung over the water, and he was tight, drunk. And he made a misslip, and he fell in the water, head and ears, right at the creek from Mr. Moorhead. So Mr. Moorhead looked over his shoulder and saw what was right ahead was baptized. Said, somebody take care of the sick.
Take care of the sick.
Oh. You know, they used to baptize in those ponds, you know. They baptized now. One time I told him, this face pond, I told it on somebody, that the preacher would go, you see, pick out the place, just put up a stake, you know, where he wanted to go.
Yeah.
And someone went out there and got a long stick and went way on out, you know, and stuck it up. And there's that watching, you know, when he started leading them in, you know, they kept going on farther and farther.
White stuff I see back in
Dogwood.
Is that in blue?
Yes, sir. Either wild plum. Maybe wild plum.
Might be wild plum.
I guess this road went on down to that field, didn't it?
Yep.
Well,
Might
I've
have.
done the Shady Grove graveyard one more time.
Doggone. Shady Grove.
Bruce been asked about Shady Grove. Shady Grove I knew was way over here. I don't think the road even goes there anymore.
Well, that's where the passes and people like that lived over there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Bruce, you know old man Moorhead lived on this road. If you know where Matt Rogers' place was, well, that's it, but I can't identify it.
That's my granddaddy Baddley's old walking stick.
Good gracious. Hey, still got the knots on it. That's hickory, I believe.
Yeah.
That's hickory. You got, well, there's a name on it. Look right there. Oh, old charter. Somebody took a piece of metal and stuck it on there, and it's got
Somebody, ARD charter.
Yeah.
See, Miss Molly is his wife, give things to all of her folks. And of course, this stick was gone. Nobody knew anything about it. I guess my dad never thought anything. And not too many years ago, it's after my folks moved over that around San Antonio, Como. Some of those, like someone was living down there around Sardis or Como somewhere, and they still had this stick, and they brought it and gave it to my dad. He didn't know what would come of it, but his wife would give it to him, to her folks.
I believe I know that boy that lives there. There's a dog gonna chase. Brrr.
This way, no.
And that's why Alf and Edna used to live right there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was a school. They moved into a schoolhouse, didn't they?
Well, I remember the schoolhouse being there. Here's where, there's the Whitson place now, right there.
Is this the Whitson
really?
place?
That's the Whitson place.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Lloyd is that man's name, Lloyd.
Walton.
Lord
Walton, because he worked Mr. Evans' ground. He's a big talker. He called himself a wheel among these colored items. Now this is Coot Harris's place. It was his when I was working for him.
Yeah, he bought it.
Offered it to me for $4,000. Of course, I didn't have the money.
I know that woman lives there, but I don't look like there's anybody there now. She's a Turner. There's a car there.
Turner, that's the name.
Coatee.
Coatee. Yeah. We sold them a stove or something one time, she and her husband. They young folks.
Now, you were up in what they call the Charlie, this was what Tatum's granddaddy's place. Tatum place?
Yeah.
And there's a graveyard back here to the right, and it's grown up in timber, and I can't tell you where it is, but everybody in this part of the country buried in the Tatum graveyard.
Yeah. That is where what Tatum comes from.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't see how people made a living out here.
Well, this ridge land was good land. Plow with a horse or a mule, smooth. You go out this road, I was out here not long ago, man, I did, and you look at the fields, look like 2 and 3 acre fields like they'd worked in that day and time.
Well, you'll find that whenever you find a lot of niggers, because they're not going to increase the field anything. We're going to go up and go across the Hawk and Nevin back into town.
You'll go over some good hills over here, too. I've been to them once twice.
Boy, there's a steep one over here. I've always wanted to come out here when it was snowing. Now, Rose Hervey's place is right back in there. His wife, I think, still lives there.
Roosevelt Hervey. Well, now, that's where that fella, we saw him and his wife's tombstone, Nixon lived. She was raised by the Johnson family. She was adopted. They owned that place, and she was the only child, and they willed it to her. But this was thickly settled out in here. Well, I don't believe many colored lived out in here then. I believe they moved.
There's a church around here, and then old Willie Cook lives out around the road here a little ways.
Pretty good looking colored church around here too. See here, all these flat ridges, that make good fields.
Old Willie Cook's got a real home out here.
All these Kerrs out here now, they got that name from Dr. Kerr, and he had a place out here somewhere.
Well, let me tell you, the other day I went to coffee lab where I opened on to get that penitentiary, and I met the young man working in the Bank of Oakland, and his name was Andrew Kerr. I said, well, you sound like East of Water Valley. He said, well, my great-grandparents lived out there. And I said, but we got a colored Andrew Kerr. I noticed he's been getting some of my money.
Ernest Kerr lived right over here. Just died 2 years ago. He was old as the hill.
Yeah, he lived.
David lives out here now.
Ernest, I worked in the barley shop with Ernest. And Ernest was a regular helper of old man Charlie Haig. Yeah. And you know, Charlie Haig was kind of a hard old soul. But he and old Ernest loved one another.
Yeah.
Well, you know, when I went to Paducah, I roomed with Mr. Charlie, and Kerr was still working up there, wasn't he?
I guess
1940.
He married Roosevelt Hervey's widow, and I thought that'd be just a fine baby. Well, she was younger. And
she lived together anytime?
No, said Mr. Brett said that old man would talk all night about old so-and-so done him dirty, and just carry on like that. Said, I got enough of that.
I'm reading an old paper.
Annie B. Hervey's her name.
Yeah, Annie B. I'm reading an old paper where a fellow is out here in his buggy, and 2 outlaws jump him, and he kills them both.
What's the name of that church?
I don't know. I don't know.
I know
he's got a church.
Scott Robinson's buried there. This was a black man coming out here. I believe his name was Kerr. And these 2 robbers tried to rob him, and he killed him.
You had to stuff with him to do it with, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a gun with him.
Now, old Miss J.P. Boydstond there in town here. No, Miss Ben Boydstond it was. She was Miss Corinne Norland's grandmother. Was Kerr. Her name was, she was the one you read that letter from, wrote to us.
Betty Kerr.
Wait a minute, let me speak to old Willie.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll get it. No, that's the wrong one. That's Willie who?
That's where he took. He lives right in that house.
Willie, how you do? I haven't seen you in a coons ages.
Hello, Willie.
Hey, Willie.
How you doing?
All right.
Hey. How many horses you got now?
I ain't got none.
Does James still got his black horse? Still got him, huh? Yeah. Well, how about the boys that had the ponies there? Do they keep them all over here? Well, how does a black horse look? Did he ever get fat?
Yeah, he got him through the seat last summer, and he put him up in drop here, and he saw off a little bit. He ought to pick him back up.
Did he ever ride him or anything? Did he ever? I sold him a horse. I sold him.
really? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I had that one. I traded him. William is, that the boys got him. They come over there. Yeah, I owned her too. He told me she had a colt. Well, listen, did the brother have one? Didn't the two? Didn't they, two of them have one each here one time? Huh? Yeah. But this has still got the saddle on it I used to have. Yeah. I wanted a black horse, a nice horse, but he was thin when I showed him. You know what I'd like to see sometimes is that list. She said you had about those, all those people that had the bad debt names.
Oh, yeah. I still got it.
Could I get a look at that sometime?
Yeah, man. Sure.
I just want to see
5 or 6 pages.
I just want to see how many I know.
Yeah. I bet you know them all.
Some of them, anyway, it wasn't too far, but
Some of them probably had a pretty good reputation for not paying.
They do. Sometimes they run like a baby with dry open. That's you, really. That's you, Mr. Ray. Boy, what's your name? One of your boys is still in love with you. How old is you? How old you say you are? 71. 71. You just a boy. 80 years old. Well, Mr. Fred, I tell you what, you took it, you had a little ease than I did. All you had to do was take the money, you know. Yeah. And I had to get out there and dig it up. I was 21 years old before I started taking it. I'm glad to see you all. I'm so glad to see you all. How far is over to the big bridge? About 2 miles and a half. 2 and a half. Well, be careful. Stand me off. Who is that?
Yeah, I didn't know him.
Well, you see, here's a good little branch bottom around here.
Oh, yeah. Nathaniel Reese used to own that.
it's just winded up for us.
Okay.
That's amazing.
I'll blow you out back there.
Southern down, too.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Yeah, if you can find the right one, huh?
This is a good farm around here.
I'm trying to figure out why it won't work. I'm pushing on it. See if your button will work it. See if your window button will work it, Charlie. Don't you have one on your seat back there? Is there one on the... No, I guess it don't have
It
it.
all comes from up there.
Okay.
That's all right.
I'm ready to do something, didn't I?
You're going farther down. Now you go.
Well, I just wanted to get to moving. I'm doing it. That work.
Now go ahead.
Charlie, in the mule days, wasn't a one-man crop, maybe his wife, wasn't about 10, 12 acres, about all one man could work?
Well, they used to try to work about around 15 or 20 acres, I think. Some of it, good hard workers, claim they'd work 25 acres.
But if his wife got sick, he'd get grassy on him.
Well, man, that hoeing they used to have to do.
Oh, 3 times in the wet year. Have to bar it off before you hold it, you know.
Just hold the top of the road there.
Yeah.
But they used to chop cotton, plant in a drill and then chop out what they didn't want.
Well, now that was your first plowing, your first hoeing was when you chopped it. That left it the number of stalks you wanted. Then you had to come back, and in a dry year you would hoe it one more time. You'd bar it off, pour it out, and then throw the dirt back to it. Then about 10 days later, you'd go in there with a scraper and lay it by on a sweep. In a wet year, you had to hoe it twice. Corn, you didn't use the hoe it but once.
Papa said one time, the daddy was going to town Saturday afternoon to get a few supplies, make a little bit of cleaning up that cotton. So him and his sister, they'd clean that cotton, he'd bring some to town. And whatever they said, they said she wanted a dime's worth of cheese. Papa said he wanted a dime's worth of store-bought tobacco.
Store-bought tobacco.
Chewed tobacco.
I bet that made him sick.
Well, he's already chewing.
But it just took a dime to please him, though, didn't it?
Yeah, I guess you got a little square about that. Dime a piece, well, that's a pretty good gift. Usually got a few pennies on a nickel.
I think the curve still on that 160 or 80 back in there that and the Kerr had. Way back up in yonder on the creek bottom.
You remember reading that letter from Betty Kerr?
Yeah.
Boydstond? Old man, upgrading, I reckon, not upgrading. Old man Ben Boydstond thought he wouldn't come home. Said, you haven't been home in 2 years.
Yeah.
Said, other men get off now and come home.
Yeah, she was tearing him up.
She wants some attention.
Says, you say you need some socks, and if you need some socks, come home and get you some socks.
And she also said, we've got a beautiful little blue-eyed girl, and you never have seen her. And then he told her what her age was.
And said, I haven't got a name for this child yet either. 9 months old, didn't even have a name.
I don't know if that was Miss Kate Marley, Miss Kent Marley.
Now, this is a Will Austin place out over here.
Yeah.
The who?
Will Austin.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when old man Will, and of course with this Will was young then, and the old man, when they went down on Yacht, he was there for years, and used to live out there on the lower sheep place.
Oh, I remember the old man when he lived down on Yacht, and we used to go out in his pasture and catch crawfish. That's Yacht Robinson's house. Daddy helped him build that. And Will Robinson was, in his young days, must have been a pretty upstanding and defiant man. He and Mr. Billy Fly had a big fight one time, I think, about the mail.
Oh, Will Austin was a kind of an impudent nigger.
I've heard that, yeah.
I remember. But he had 2 boys that were not. No, Will wasn't. Will, the young Will, and Leroy, and what's that other name?
Leroy told me he wasn't an Austin. One day he told me, he said, I'm a somebody else, you know.
He looked like a cub for his size. But the cubs were not as small.
The Austin was small, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There's a little old
Mama, Aunt Nettie, she was a little woman.
There's a little fast-talking black woman uptown there. Came over to pick muscadines one year.
Now, this is the highway, isn't it?
Nope.
This goes out to.
This is the battle.
Yeah, the highway's over here.
No, this is the Liberty.
This goes
Drive
up to
us
Liberty,
back.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Anyway, she came to pick muscadines. She said she's Will Austin's daughter. Talking to this little old black woman, I was
I knew her, too. She used to do some practical nurses. She was married to Wright. Her name was Wright.
She was kind of intelligent.
Yeah.
Had a bunch of little old girls and boys going to help her pick. And they're doing pretty good, you know. They had about a half a bucket full. So one of those little old teenage girls looked up in the tree there and saw a tree full of catawba worms. She let out a scream and they knocked over the bucket, ran, scared them to death. Just worms up in the tree.
We're hitting the old Al Hawkins place now.
Yep.
Yeah.
This was on that O.T. Tiger's place. He sold it to old Uncle Ralph Hawkins when he came down. I think it was a section of land.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big place.
They got footing there to divide this up from called the valuation of pieces. Some got better land, some got more land, not so good.
That's so I know the boys is out here now, they're old men, and I knew when there's boys too. They're old men now.
Old man, you remember old man Foshee that had the beard?
Yeah, yeah.
He is one when Will Austin, Mr. Church said lived over the Lawshees, and he wanted to get a whole piece of land.
Yeah.
And Mr. Foshee said, Will, I can tell you how you can get it. Said, how is that, Mr. Foshee? Said, don't buy a thing for 1 12-month period except what it takes to exist on until you can get a start. He made a pretty good crop that year. Cleaned out, went and bought him some land.
Well, I'm talking. It didn't take the $200-300.
That old Will Austin, when they lived out that Lost Sheet, because Will was young, yeah. I mean, they were go-getters now. Boy, they worked. They'd hit the ball.
That was Ted McCoy back there sitting on that trailer step. He's got a good 38 Smith & Wesson if you want one.
Pistol?
Yeah,
What's that?
yeah.
What do you want for it?
125.
125?
Yeah, he says it's a good one. 6-inch barrel.
Well, that's a long one, isn't it?
Well, once in a while, old Ted gets a good gun. I bought 1 or 2 from him.
Who is that?
Ted McCoy.
Oh, yeah.
After they caught Robert Sullivan down there and fined him $1,000, and he had to pay Murray $800 or something to defend him. Well, it scared old Ted so bad he wouldn't sell guns for a while.
You got to have a license.
Yeah, you got to have a license. But that was a dirty trick to pick on old Robert with all those children. I had bought several good guns from Robert and sold them, made a little money. Sold him 1 or 2.
What's the next graveyard you're going to inspect?
Well, I'd like to go to Concord.
Is that your where?
The next pretty afternoon, let's go over to Concord and park at
I can
Salem.
take you there without going to Ellen.
Yeah,
We'll just go
okay.
out there and put on what they call put on the Sam Nation's Highway.
That's where Sam Nation came from right now.
Yeah, but this is a cousin of his that road. He came back from Texas and began to pull to build this road. They built it and called it the Sam Nation's Highway. That big fella went back to Texas and died out there.
Well, I didn't know there was but one Sam Nation. He's the one that bought in up at Springdale, wasn't he?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, he owned that Springdale place.
That's the one where Earl Fly lost his money.
Did Earl lose that
That's where
money?
Andy Ross lost out too when he bought that place. The old Andy had that other place up there, had it paid for. He come along after World War I, you know, and good. Finally got it to operate.
Yep.
And and Andy went down and bought that place, and he never did come out from under the desk.
Didn't old Captain Allen once own that place?
Captain Allen owned the place up there, yeah. Well, not the Springdale place, but
The fight place.
the fight place up.
Yeah.
That's the old Captain Allen place. Brigham Young lived down here when I was just a kid in Springdale, and he sold to called Mitchell out in Calhoun. And Mitchell let the nation have it.
Now, Mr. Nation was in the store business because in 1925 he's selling Brandon Jones a store up there at the park. That might have been the one you talking about from Texas.
No, that Sam Nation never lived in town. He was from Calhoun, he went back to Calhoun. Then he left Calhoun and went back to Texas.
Well,
But he was this Sam Nation's cousin.
I'm over yonder last winter